First thing we'll do in the Content Architect training is cover the Backend Overview. So we're going to cover a few different ways that can log into the dotCMS instance. So I've got a local instance of dotCMS 5.0 as of the last version. It's not yet released, but the very last update just updated just now before our training here. So here is the front end. What we have is a financial website. We have many financial services clients, and we have many from different industries as well. But this is just a demo starter that shows you best practices as webmasters, how to build content pulls, how to do personalization. It also exposes with a flyout, the visitor persona and things that are just exposing webmaster data, so that you can really understand kind of what's going on as you click through dotCMS. So whenever we log into the backend, you're going to see a services folder that has these pages inside. You're going to see an About Us folder that has these pages inside. It has geo-located locations for office locations around the world, an example how to do that. And our team that pulls employees dynamically, a dynamic product pull that live real-time pulls data and then presents it in kind of a graphical way. There is a document repository. There is a video repository where you can click on a video and see one of the videos from YouTube or Vimeo and see how to use those widgets. There is a blog that is also paginated and shows you how to move, between content and a paginated content pull. It shows, tags and distribute, tags on content, and shows a little tag cloud here. An intranet example so that you can actually log in as someone who has a permissioned access to an intranet page. And they log in. It also got some example on OAuth, so you can do a single sign-on if you wish. We have multiple ways to sign into dotCMS. Okay, so it just logged me into the intranet, and then you can see there is a completely different theme that it loads, totally customized data for this particular intranet user. If I click log out, I go back to the demo. There is a news listing page which shows news that is not only geolocated but personalized and paginated here. And we have some rules actions which actually works with this personalized pull of news. So if I just click on something that, let me see what's targeting. Here is, I think this is a global investor tagged piece of news. So you'll see in our news flyout that if we click on one of those, we'll end up getting associated with a persona. And that ends up changing. We come back here to the back end, or maybe it's if we click on, I guess maybe we click on one of these, wealth management. There we go. That's the trigger. We click on wealth management, and you can see it's setting here. That's our rules action. Whenever you hit one of these pages from the home page, it sets the persona, and you can see that persona now, the visitor object is filling out. And now if we go back to our home page, you can see that the banner has changed. You can see our footer has changed. So the way that this starter site is built, it's built to kind of show off these tools, these backend features, and how do you actually use them. You can see that not only did it change the header and the footer, it also changed this news poll. So if we clicked now over to news, we've got a different news poll that's targeting more of a global investor. We've also made the flyout so that you don't have to go back to the home page all the time in order to actually trigger that, even though natural movement across a page or natural clicking on content, that might be one of your rules actions. You can actually we just built this for webmasters so you can manipulate the personalization feature. You can click on one of these, instantly see the tags applying, and then the algorithm recalculates, and now you're a first-time investor and the news pulls completely differently. Right? So it's just best practices that shows you how to build these things, and gives examples of multi-container content. So you can see you can place any type of content anywhere you wish on any page, little blurb on building mobile apps with dotCMS and repos, a front-end content REST API form, one-pager app that actually is a little, ski resort that shows you how to you can implement any design inside of dotCMS, and that's a theme that exists here on the back end. Remote widgets, a little blurb about how to pull content from another dynamic dotCMS server, and you can see it's asking me for my location, geolocation. It found me in Heredia, but I don't have any content near me in Heredia, Costa Rica. We don't have any in our starter, but there's provided a little map so I can actually, zoom in, and I can click around and actually click where I know there is some starter content, which is right around the South Carolinas area. And so now I can just see that news that is near me within 1,000 kilometers, right? So that's a little example on how to do geolocated content in dotCMS. So all of these things, including a full Elasticsearch site search, there's tons of things built in here on the starter. So let's first take a look at the two ways to log in, and then we're going to take a look at a backend overview of these features. So that there's two different ways that you can actually log in. So if we went to this like About Us page here, very, very simple page, and let's just say you notice there were some mistakes here. And yes, this is Latin, so there's really not spelling mistakes that I would even know how to correct. But there's two different ways to log in. You can log in with a /edit, and that will take you to that exact page on the back end, or, and I'm just going to log in with my admin username and password. And that would take me exactly to that page, so that then I can just, click on edit and begin editing the page. And, I can start editing that content and making changes to it, right? Or I could log out, and more typically, what you'll do is here, if I'm just on the front end and I do a /admin, that takes you to your workflow. So all content contributors will go straight to the workflow. They still have to sign in, obviously, and that'll take you to the dashboard. There's a new dashboard inside of dotCMS that will integrate with the Google Analytics. We have some sample data already built in, and on each host will integrate live real time with your Google Analytics data and give you the number of sessions across time. You can actually filter by date range as well. So if you wanted to see a certain time period, see the traffic on the last few days, see the sources of the traffic, visitor age data, browser and what browsers people are using to see your site, what device types they're using to see your site, and geolocation information, where the session's coming from around the world, search terms, there has to be query data, obviously, social traffic, what's leading to your site, and you can see how successful some of your campaigning is real time. So that's a very nice new feature in dotCMS 5.0 that hooks right into your Google Analytics. And I'll show you, as we're covering the content type, how to simply put your Google Analytics key right there on each host and pull all of this graphical data specifically for each host as you travel between each host that you have configured in dotCMS, which is obviously very easy to do multi-tenant as well. So here on the tasks, that is also right here in this home area, you'll see any tasks that have been specifically assigned to you as a user, and then be able to click on that landing page or whatever it happens to be, and then see the actions taken on that content, a link to that content, actions that can be taken on that content, edit the content, copy the content, unpublish the content, go straight to that content, and then see, it's just a landing page, and visit, every, historical version of changes on that content, take some sort of action, or just close that and go back to your workflow. So that is the home area. It has a dashboard, tasks. We've even included our legacy dashboard in case people want to go back to the legacy dashboard. Under site, there is a site browser. This is where all of the assets are stored. And of course, I am logging in and I am seeing this complete site because I am logging in as an admin. Normally a typical content publisher would not see all of this, would not see all sites, certainly. And so just to quickly illustrate that and illustrate a feature, if you need to log in and see a limited content contributor's perspective, you can click here, log in as. I can then type the name of a user, Joe contributor, and this is a more limited perspective, right? I'm logging in as another user. And then if I go to site browser and I see the website as him, I'm only seeing the resources area, which that particular content publisher manages. If I try to change the website and edit the website or change the resources folder, he's not allowed to do that. Very, very granular permissions. He's only allowed to add new child objects, folders, pages, files, multiple files, menu links inside of his own folder. If we clicked here on the content search manager, he once again would have a very limited perspective, only a contact us form and document content, and that's it, right? And then whenever that user goes to contribute new content, it's only of that document content type, right? Very, very easy, very, very limited view. And nobody needs to get confused by having too much access to anything else. I don't need to ask a limited user for their login credentials or break any kind of business rules. I can just do a proxy login, right? And that's tracked, of course, in the system. I can log out as that user, go back to my administrative perspective, right? So once again, just going over the review, here is the complete site browser. And in here, if we looked at the About Us, here's our pages, our subfolders, our assets inside of each of the areas of the page. If we want to know why the About Us section actually appears on our main menu, we right click and we edit a folder, and we can see there's a show on menu property that's allowing that About Us to be actually seen in the drop down menu from the home page. Right? And if I wanted to take it off, it's just as easy as unchecking that button and then going back to the home page, and the About Us section will no longer, and its subpages, will no longer be there. There's a way to control menu links. So if you want to add certain things to a localized area and you want to have a submenu, a side nav, so what have you, you can add menu links, and this is a menu link manager. Controlling templates. There's a lot of improvements on creating templates and template layouts in 5.0. Some really exciting stuff I'm going to be showing you just a little bit. And this is where you would create new templates, and then whenever you add those templates to pages, then you can create the layouts as well. We'll get there shortly. Containers actually format, they're little like areas of a page is what I would think of them as, and they can be formatted for static content. You can drop dynamic content, you can drop forms, widgets, all on containers. And so whenever a user takes, let's say, this large column container, and they're going to use it to just select, maybe they want to put a blog, or they want to put generic content, or they want to put products, how does the styling automatically happen for them so they don't have to worry about it at all? So no matter what, there's wrappers here that automatically, CSS wrappers that automatically take, let's just say the title, automatically provides a URL title, a path to a detail page. Everything we teach the webmasters how to, set up these containers so that no matter what type of content the user is placing, it just looks perfect every time, and then never have to worry about styling. We want to try and avoid that as much as possible, not only with dynamic content, which of course then you would just code the widget to make sure that the content pulls however you wish. But even whenever they statically place content on any area of the page, it just looks perfect every time, and is date formatted and everything perfectly using just a little bit of Velocity, JavaScript, and HTML. Okay. So moving away from the container manager, there's also a time machine. We're going to show how you can take a look at a past snapshot, kind of like the Wayback Time Machine, if you've ever visited that website and looked at what did Amazon look like 5 years ago or something like that. We have our own static snapshot of our own sites, which you can schedule using this little settings manager, and say I want a static HTML snapshot of my site every hour, or every once a night at 1 a.m., whatever you want to do. We also have a future view of your complete site, and you can pick the date, that you want to see your site, and you can say in what language, and you can look ahead 6 months and see what promotions are going to auto-publish themselves. Yes, we do have auto-publishing if you wish, and get a view of exactly what your site's going to look like when those promotions actually appear on your pages. You can look forward and backwards in time. That's a time machine. We have a push publishing queue where you can push to one environment, multiple environments, static environments, AWS3, and also single servers that are just, you know, a Linux box. So we have configurations for all of those, and we'll be showing that later as well. Under the marketing tab, we have a complete rules engine that controls all of that personalization we were looking at on the front end. So you can add a rule and describe that rule, set up conditions and actions for whenever certain behaviors happen, or if somebody's on a certain browser or they're browsing from a certain device, you know, million different combinations there. You can set all of those conditions. You can set all of the actions that happen whenever they meet those conditions, set multiple conditions and doors, et cetera, for personalization. We have a vanity URL that if you want to set up a virtual URL for a campaign, even whenever they visit that URL, it will not change. It does not redirect. It actually acts as a real virtual URL that stays in the browser and then delivers them to any part of your site that you wish, or it could even deliver them to an external site if you wish. And then you can Google Analytics track those paths that you've sent out in emails, etc., and see how successful your campaigning was. We have a form builder, so you can build a no-code form, or you can use REST API forms that you can, you know, throw jQuery or JavaScript in the middle of. Either way you wish, we kind of give you both options, the super easy and the advanced and complex. For templates, we do that as well. Under types and tags, this is where we control the creation of content, taxonomization of content, relationships between content, the workflows that apply to content that are some of the most advanced that you can find in any CMS out there, and the most granular that work with our permissions, which are also very, very powerful compared to other CMSs. So we're going to do things today, during this training, with workflows that you probably won't be able to do in a lot of other CMSs out on the market. So we'll create new content types, and there's many different types of content types that we can create: regular content types, widget content types, form content types, file content types, and page content types. We'll be looking at the differences between each of those. We're going to look at categories and how you can apply taxonomies, create brand new taxonomies, and apply those in large umbrella-like webmaster controlled categories that all content should fall under. And we're also going to show a more ad hoc taxonomy, which is tagging, so that content publishers who maybe are even more expert on the content than the webmasters, they can say, yes, it's great, I can, you know, throw content into one of those categories, but there's a million other ways underneath that umbrella of a category label that users can do a front-end search, and we want to make sure to tag the content so they can find that content the easiest. We try to make our taxonomy so that there's multiple different ways that front-end users can find content in the most easy way possible. So I'll show you how to master those taxonomies, and then we'll set up brand new workflows. There's a lot of new and exciting improvements in workflows, how you can actually look as any user in the system and see every button, everything that they can click on in the system. A new system workflow, ways you can filter workflows based upon who they are, you know, whether they have any access or whether they have complete access. And take a look at all of the different workflow schemes in the system, and we're going to cover those in just a little bit, right? Languages, how to manage multilingual content and add new languages, all of that is under types and tags. Under DevTools, there is an OSGI plugin portlet so that you can develop, let's just say we were just covering workflows, so let's just say you want a custom sub action and a workflow, a button on your content that will instantly send someone maybe a contact request, will send that user as a validated user over to Salesforce, or integrate with you know, HubSpot, something like that. Our clients do it all the time. They don't even have to stop their dotCMS server. Obviously, you should deploy a new OSGI plugin on a dev server, but you can actually live load jars and just, you know, load the plugin and then go back to your workflow, and now you have a new action there. Okay, and we're talking about hours of development, not weeks, right? Or not even a week. You know, clients are doing that all the time. Very, very easy to extend dotCMS. We have a couple of different query tools. The most easy query kind of methodology is a Lucene-like query that you can query for data here. And there's also an Elasticsearch query that you can query here using Elasticsearch. Even though we are using Elasticsearch for both, there is a parameter in Elasticsearch that will accept Lucene queries that are a little bit more user-friendly and readable, and return the same results. So whichever way you'd like to query, we have two different queries for the content repo. Then there's a site search manager here so that you can do things like we do for dotcms.com. So if you want to create a site search for documentation, and you want to have this search refer only to content that's reachable through a path that is /docs. And then you want to have a different index for the code share, and which that's exactly what we do. And that's why whenever you search the code share, you only get code, documents. Whenever you search documentation, you only get documentation, et cetera, et cetera. Or you can make it a complete site search. So this site search manager here is how to manage all of that. And we'll be looking at that later. And it does full text indexation too. So it'll actually dive down into your Word files, your PDFs, your PowerPoint presentations, everything, and find terms that are inside of those docs and actually return them. Here on this ending search, we have a front end search that's built into our starter that we'll look at, and we'll search for terms and show you how it's returning. Under system, there is a user manager, so you can add more users to the system, but you actually don't need to. If you integrate with LDAP, your users can be created by your Active Directory groups, as long as you tell your your sysadmins what users belong in what dotCMS tagged Active Directory groups. And that's all you need to do. You set up your permissions for those roles using our roles manager. And then whenever they log in, their user is found in Active Directory, finds the Active Directory groups that correspond to dotCMS, comes back to dotCMS, creates their user, and assigns them one or many roles inside of dotCMS. So they've never existed before. Their user didn't exist. They log in one time and they start working immediately. So we've got all our role manager here. You can nest roles one underneath another if you have, roles that are managing other roles. We'll show how to set up permissions. There's a maintenance portlet where you can see all sorts of stats on your entire system without logging into a server, even your logged in users, indexation, caching. There's a configuration manager that you can manage your basic config. You can pick several different background colors, primary colors, secondary colors, background images, upload your own, corporate image, set language defaults, set authentication types, control your licensing, network manager to see all of the nodes inside of your cluster, take a look at your push publishing environments and configure them, configure multiple environments. And finally, there is a site manager where you can either add a new site that is a blank starter or copy any existing site, and you can even copy anything you want from any existing site. So if you have multiple sites that are very, very similar, you can take a skeletal type of site, create it, and then just keep copying it over and over again, and then just change the skin files to give it a different look and feel. So that is a shotgun review of all of the features, and now maybe you know why it takes so long to cover dotCMS training, because with great power comes a lot of responsibility, and we're going to cover a lot of powerful things. So that is our backend overview.